It is technically still March 6th, and the Splash Zone is back in your life. I'm Matt Modi, and I have three NBA player prop bangers for tomorrow's NBA betting slate, Tuesday, May 7th. So I'm going back to recording these the day before. So I'm recording this on Monday afternoon, Monday evening, giving you my three player props for tomorrow's NBA betting slate. We got Celtics versus Cavs. We got Mavericks versus Thunder. And I'm going to have three picks for you guys to lock in. I don't have a recap from how Monday went because I'm recording this before the games are going on. Let's hope that we had an amazing Monday, and in hindsight, this is going to seem really, really good. But on the entire season, things have been going pretty well for us, up about 111 and 11 units of profit. On the entire playoffs specifically, not as good, still in the green, up a little over 3 units specifically since the regular season ended. The ROI isn't quite as good as our regular season ROI, but still happy to be up the 3 units so far in the playoffs. Obviously, this is all depending on what happens on Monday, but as of this recording, those are the numbers. Would appreciate it if you are not already, if you could subscribe to my YouTube video, like the video, and then comment as well. And then the last thing I'll mention before I get into tomorrow's bangers is that I do have a Dub Club where I send out everything early. It's only $5 a month, and if you're interested, the link is just right up there. The way it works is the plays you see me give out for free on YouTube and on Twitter, those are the same plays that I send out on Dub Club. I just send them out early, so sometimes people are watching the YouTube videos and the odds change. Nothing I can do about that by the time I record, edit, and post. Odds change. The Dub Club is the way to combat that. $5 a month gets you the picks as soon as I decide what they are before the odds change, or you can just get everything for free on YouTube and on Twitter. Whatever you want to do is fine with me. That's enough of that. Let's get into tomorrow's bangers. Let's see if we can splash around and get wet. First up, first play we're locking in here is in the Cavs versus Celtics game, and I'm taking Jaylen Brown over 6.5 first quarter points plus 114 odds at DraftKings. So first play, going back to the old reliable first quarter king, one of the first quarter kings in Jaylen Brown. Loving this play, especially when you consider the fact that Kristaps Porzingis is still out for this game, most likely going to be out for the remainder of the series. So this is probably going to be a play you're going to hear from me a lot unless the odds just completely get nuked and it's no longer worth playing. This is a really good play for Jaylen Brown. Now, you're going to look at it and say, well, he only went over in one game against the Heat. Why is this a good play? Well, the one game that he went over was the only game that he played without Kristaps Porzingis. And in 2 of the games that he went under, he scored exactly 6 points. So another 3-pointer, another free throw, another bucket, whatever, and he's cashing this over for us. And in that game, Jaylen Brown scored 10 points in the first quarter, despite the fact that he didn't even play 8 minutes, which is pretty weird for him. Normally, he plays over the 8-minute mark, sometimes up to 10 minutes. So I'm expecting him to play at least 8 minutes, but well over that moving forward for this game. And if you look at the entire season, Jaylen Brown went over 6.5 first quarter points in 38 of 70 regular season games, which I know that doesn't sound amazing, but it's still a 54% hit rate. And it's something that we're betting at plus 114 odds. Now, obviously, a lot more goes into it than just looking at the hit rate and then comparing that to the odds. But over a long sample size, like 70 regular season games, that's really good from a value perspective. But more importantly, when Kristaps Porzingis is out of the lineup, Jaylen Brown scores more in the first quarter. It's only been 20 games, but that is the sample size that we have. In 12 of 20 games this season, that does include the one playoff game against the Heat, Jaylen Brown went over 6.5 first quarter points. So 60% hit rate without Kristaps Porzingis in the lineup. And I like this matchup for Jaylen Brown against the Cavs as well. They have not a ton of good wing defenders. I think this should be a good game for Jaylen Brown, a good series for Jaylen Brown. I also think this could be finally a series in which Jason Tatum 3-pointers are a play, but I'm not going to play that in game 1. He shot horribly the entire Heat series. Maybe he shoots horribly to start the game as well, but I am going to monitor Jason Tatum and his 3-point prop. But for this play, obviously, we're talking about Jaylen Brown. And this is a number that Jaylen Brown hit in 2 of 3 games against the Cavs in the regular season. The one game that he missed, he scored 5 points while shooting 2 of 8 from the field. Him putting up 8 shots in the first quarter is not out of the realm of possibilities. If he does that again, we'll be feeling pretty good, and that's that's in line with what I'm expecting for tonight. So hopefully Jaylen Brown comes through for us, gets us 7 or more points in the first quarter. Next up, same game, Donovan Mitchell, 4+ made 3-pointers, plus 180 odds at Bet Rivers. So his main line point prop for this game is over under 2.5. The odds weren't really worth taking for him to go over 2.5. So what I decided to do was just pump it up by one made 3-pointer. So instead of getting him to go over 2.5, we took him to make 4+, which is the same thing as over 3.5. But I'm lowering that unit size. So I'm putting 0.75 units on this one as opposed to a full unit play. Every play, unless otherwise told, is a full unit play. 1 unit equals 1% of your bankroll. For me, that's $100. So for this play, I'm putting $75 on it. But with that said, with that out of the way, I think this could be a massive series for Donovan Mitchell, and specifically Donovan Mitchell's 3-point prop. Now, this is going to feel scary, right? He did not shoot that great in the Magic series, despite the fact that he did blow up the last 3 games of that series. He did not make 4 or more 3-pointers one time in that series. Literally not once in the 7 games, and only twice did he even make 3. He shot 24.6% from 3-point range in that series. Number one, that's just a number that I want to fade, right? Donovan Mitchell, we've seen him get hot from 3-point range before. Him shooting that poorly, but still getting the attempts up, I think is a good sign moving forward. And most importantly, this is a completely different series, a completely different matchup against a completely different defense. Guards that can pull up from 3-point range are guards that you want to target their 3-point props against the Celtics, right? It's all about their style of defense. Even without Kristaps Porzingis, the Celtics play a very high, but still drop coverage on the pick and roll. Meaning whenever you run a pick and roll against the Celtics, let's pretend it's Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell. Whoever is guarding Jared Allen, whoever is guarding the man setting the pick, they drop the coverage, right? They keep everything in front of them. So Donovan Mitchell goes around the screen and he's generally able to pull up from 3-point range, right? They give up a ton of above the break 3-pointers. If you look at the entire season, they give up the second most above the break 3-point attempts and the third most made above the break 3-pointers. And there's a heavy correlation between above the break and pull up 3-pointers, right? Generally, if you're pulling up, it's from above the break because it's when you have the ball in your hands. Not a lot of people are breaking someone down on the corner. That's very rare. And if you look at the regular season, the Celtics literally gave up the most pull-up 3-point attempts in the entire NBA, the most pull-up 3-point attempts against them, and they were tied for the second most made against them as well. That was the case all year, and it was still the case to end the regular season as well. Now, the Heat, they don't really have anybody that can threaten you from pulling up aside from Tyler Hero, and he's not nearly as good of an offensive player as Donovan Mitchell is. So that issue didn't really come up at all against the Heat, but it's a different story against Donovan Mitchell and against the Cavaliers with Donovan Mitchell, obviously. And if you look at the entire season, and this is according to props.cash, the Celtics were the 4th best matchup in the entire NBA, specifically for point guard 3-point props. Now, I like giving this data because not only does it just look at the raw total 3-point attempts and made 3-pointers that they gave up, but it also takes into account what the player's over-under was as well. So even when you consider the fact that books are probably pricing the Celtics being a good matchup for point guard 3-point props, they're still listed as the 4th best matchup in the NBA for point guards and the 6th best matchup in the NBA for shooting guards. Now, the position doesn't really matter here. What matters is guys that run a lot of pick and roll and that can pull up from deep. That's Donovan Mitchell. He can definitely do that. He's one of the best pull-up 3-point guards in the entire NBA. Not quite, Trae Young or Luka, but very good at pulling up from 3-point range. Last year, in the regular season, Donovan Mitchell made 4 or more 3-pointers in 3 of 4 games against the Celtics. This year, he did it in 1 of 2 games, only played against them twice this year because he was hurt for the other 2 games. One game, he hit 5 3-pointers against them. The other game, he hit 2. So the attempts should be there this series. You just got to hope that he shoots better than he did against the Magic. But if the attempts are there and he misses in game 1, I'm probably going to go back to him in game 2. Just going to have to monitor and see how that play goes. That's our second play. Next up, we're going to the Mavericks versus Thunder game. I'm just going to have one play so far for this game. And I'm taking PJ Washington, 3+ made 3-pointers, plus 220 odds at FanDuel. And this is just going to be a half unit play. So it's actually a very similar situation with PJ than it was with Donovan Mitchell, where his main line 3-point prop was over under 1.5, but it's priced so heavily towards the over, it just wasn't worth playing at that number. So I did the same exact thing where I took it at 1 higher. In this case, I took it at 3+ made 3-pointers, but I only put a half unit on this one. And it's kind of the same thing with Donovan Mitchell. I think this is going to be a massive, massive series for PJ Washington. And if he misses this in game 1, I'm likely to go right back to him in game 2. Regardless, as I mentioned, I think this is going to be a huge series for PJ Washington, especially when you consider the fact that Maxi Kleber is out. Maxi Kleber is out for the Mavericks. With him being out, as a side note, I also do like rebound props for Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively. I honestly couldn't decide which one I liked the rebound prop more. So I wanted to skip that one entirely and just kind of monitor how game one goes and then kind of see if I can make any decisions from there. So just a side note, player props to monitor are Dan Gafford and Derek Lively rebound props. As for PJ Washington, Maxi Kleber being out, Kleber, I keep saying Kleber because that's how it's spelled. Maxi Kleber being out is a huge deal for the Mavericks and how they want to play. When they want to space you out and play 5 out, that is with Maxi Kleber at the 5. Him being injured means they either are just going to not opt to go 5 out, or what I think they're going to do is actually put PJ Washington at center and see if he can hang against Chet. PJ Washington is 6'7", so he's not tall, but he's not a shrimp either. But Chet Holmgren is not the type of shooter at center that will just shoot over you, and he's not a bully ball type of center as well. Now, he's a phenomenal player who has his strengths, but he's not the guy that will just shoot over people consistently, and he's not someone that will bully you in the paint. So I'm guessing that the Mavericks are going to see if they can survive putting PJ on Chet when they want to play 5 out. So I think he's going to have an important role on defense. And then on offense, his three-point opportunities should absolutely be there. The Thunder are a team that allow a ton of corner three-pointers and a ton of catch-and-shoot three-pointers as well. If you look at the regular season, the Thunder gave up literally the most in the entire NBA, the most corner three-point attempts in the NBA, and the second most catch-and-shoot three-point attempts as well. And then when you just look at players spotting up, which is what PJ Washington does, they gave up the 4th most points per game in the NBA via spot-ups. That's what PJ Washington does for the Mavericks. He spots up and he shoots from the corner. Since the All-Star break, and he was acquired around the trade deadline, so you figured they give him a couple games to acclimate himself. Looking at the All-Star break and on, so the last 2 months of the regular season, 2.5 months if you include the playoffs, not only did PJ Washington take the most corner threes on the Mavericks, but he actually took the 10th most corner threes in the entire NBA, again, since the All-Star break. And then in the playoffs, his attempts were higher than they were since the All-Star break and on. And he's taken the 3rd most corner threes per game in the NBA playoffs so far. Both the 3rd most corner threes per game and the 3rd most corner 3 attempts as well, if you're just looking at raw totals. So all in all, I think it's a very important series. Could be a really good spot here for PJ Washington. We'll see what happens. Let's hope that he comes through for us. And that's all we got. 3 bangers for tomorrow's slate for you guys to lock in. And make sure to like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out my Dub Club if you are interested in getting everything sent to you for $5 a month. Appreciate everybody for watching, and have a good one.